Welcome to the last word for your Wednesday. Boy, oh boy, did we ever rip apart that budget. Thanks for joining us for our budget special this morning. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, go back and check it out. Tonight's episode's still good, I promise you. It's all about a country's economy shrinking who has a media that doesn't show both sides of the story. So, when a country's economy shrinks for the fourth time in 5 months, that should be front page news, you would think, right? It should be the lead story on every newscast. It should dominate headlines, fuel debate, and send politicians scrambling to answer to you for it. But not in Canada. In Canada, under Mark Carney's Liberals, it was quietly tucked away on page 4 of the CBC News site this past weekend, and no one else covered it. You heard me right. Canada's economy was just announced. Canada's economy on Friday of last week announced that it contracted again in August, and our state-funded broadcasters buried it like it never happened. In fact, I'm shocked it was CBC where I found it. And even though it was where I found it, it was on the 4th page. That's not journalism, that's information control. And it's becoming one of the most dangerous problems in Canada today. Let's go.
Welcome to Bakes on Things.
Welcome back to Bakes on Things. I'm Chris Baker. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, join the conversation down below. It is no wonder liberals put in our comments that they think our economy is growing, because anything to the contrary is buried by the news. Let's start with the facts, because clearly the media doesn't want to. So here's some facts for you, liberals. StatsCan reported that Canada's economy shrank by 0.3% in August, the fourth monthly contraction in 5 months. Manufacturing was down 0.5%. Mining, quarrying, and oil and gas down 0.7%. Metal ore mining down 1.2%. Coal mining down 5%. Transportation, warehousing, and wholesale trade also down. Are you catching my drift? We're not a growing economy, and we continue to shrink and shrink fast, and Pierre Poilievre is right. That's across both the goods and the services sectors. That's not one bad month. That's the kind of pattern that signals a country in economic freefall. But where did the CBC put it? Well, certainly not at the top. I mean, I was looking on Saturday, I was doing the research Saturday morning. It should have been right near the top. 4th page. Not front page, not trending, well below the fold, not even in their top 5 stories. They gave more space to soft human interest stories, puff pieces, and recycled opinion columns than to the fact that the Canadian economy continues to shrink, that it is shrinking again. This is news being withheld from you. This is criminal. This is news that they'll say, oh no, it was there. It was there. Just scroll and scroll and scroll, and maybe one more time scroll, and you'll find it. But why bury it? Why would they be doing this? Why are some news networks not even showing it? Because bad news about the economy makes Mark Carney, who pays their bills, and the Liberal Party look bad. That's what it does, because it is bad. The Liberal narrative, carefully protected by their media allies, is that our pain at the pumps, at the grocery store, and at the bank is all somebody else's fault. They blame Donald Trump's tariffs, global uncertainty, climate change, even COVID still. They blame Russia as well. Global headwinds, they call it. But this latest data just shows otherwise. Tariffs are a factor. Don't get me wrong. Sure, they're a factor in some of those sectors, definitely. But the real collapse is domestic. It's rooted in our policies delivered by this Liberal government, our taxes, and our broken economic model that hasn't changed a cent since Mark Carney took over. And when a government's economic credibility collapses, the media it funds with hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars suddenly gets very quiet, or just tucks it away so they can say, yeah, we did report it, but it's just, you're going to have to scroll a bit. That's not a coincidence. That's just outright criminal protection. The myth of the free press in Canada is exactly that, a beyond crazy myth. We love to brag about having a free press in our country, in Canada, but let's be honest. What we have now is a subsidized press. State-run media. The Trudeau government started it with media bailout programs. That's what started all of this problem. They've always been liberal leaning, but now it's real. Hundreds of millions to trusted outlets of the liberal government. Mark Carney has kept that system intact because guess what? It buys the silence he needs to steal your vote. If your newsroom depends on federal grants, you don't rock that boat. If your reporters rely on government briefings for access, you don't embarrass the prime minister with headlines about economic decline here in Canada, because most likely you're not even going to be let into the press conference after that. So that's how you end up with page 4 coverage of a story that should shake this entire country. 4 of the last 5 months in decline. This is how democracies decay into nothing. Not through overt censorship, which they're also trying, but through soft censorship, which they've already achieved, where journalists start asking themselves, will this story upset Mr. Carney? Will it upset my funding source? Will it upset the executives at CBC? One guy left and then got fired all at the same time because of that. When you hide the truth, you rob citizens of their ability to make informed decisions. That's what's happening among the liberal cult who still watches these networks. Think about it. If you don't know the economy is shrinking, how can you judge whether Carney's policies are actually working? If the media won't tell you manufacturing and mining are cratering, how can you vote intelligently about energy and trade policy? If the truth only surfaces quietly after the fact, how can you actually hold anyone in this country accountable for anything? Unbalanced reporting. That's what this is. Unbalanced reporting creates a population that feels something is wrong. They feel poorer, more anxious, more overworked, but they can't quite point to why. That's because no one will show you. That's exactly how a government like Carney's survives. People can sense the pain, but they don't see the numbers because the numbers, they get buried. So you can't really blame Carney. So, I'll throw him a vote again anyway. This is information warfare. Slow, subtle, very psychological, and it's working, and the liberals know it. And that's where you have to make sure you don't get fooled, because that's the idea, is to fool each and every one of you. And they have gotten so damn good at it that you mistake it for real. They're almost AI. Propaganda doesn't always look like North Korea. Sometimes it looks like CBC.ca, a newsroom that quietly edits, reorders, and filters reality to make the government look competent. CTV does it too. Global News to a lesser extent. They're all Toronto Star, whoa. Globe and Mail, even more. When the economy shrinks, they talk about avoiding recession. When inflation rises, they call it stabilizing. When unemployment spikes, they call it resilient labor markets. Every headline is bent toward protecting the ruling party's image. And not always. If the ruling party was conservative, it would still be bent to destroy them. Meanwhile, independent journalists, I don't call myself that, I'm more of a commentator, of course, but there's a lot of great independent journalists out there, and alternative media like myself get labeled as biased or dangerous because we dare to publish the stories and the big networks won't touch. And those big networks won't touch them because they're against Mark Carney. We're not necessarily against Mark Carney. I want to see this country do well, but that's not democracy. What they're doing is narrative management. So now we have to look like we can't stand the guy because we have to point out all the truths around everything. And that's why it makes it look like we are radical, but we are not. We are simply presenting the other side you don't get to hear on mainstream media. So let's call this what it is: a uniquely Canadian crisis caused by Canadian policies. Think about this for a second. Do you want to have some proof of this? Well, we've had record taxation, record deficit spending. We're going to see a whole lot more as we learned this week. Record housing unaffordability, record grocery inflation. This isn't Trump's doing. This isn't Putin's doing. This is Canada's doing. This is the Liberal government. This is Carney's doing, Trudeau's doing, compounded by a media establishment far too timid to push the envelope or to bring you the true stories. When you punish oil and gas, kill pipelines, and bury manufacturing under carbon taxes, the economy shrinks. Period. That was you. That wasn't Donald Trump. That was you and your policies. The data proves it. 4 out of 5 months negative? But the CBC would rather you read about celebrity pets than GDP decline. They'd rather you read about Justin Trudeau out for his first official date with Katy Perry than the decline of our economy because it looks bad. And it looks bad for their leader. Real journalism doesn't protect the powerful, it challenges them. It puts uncomfortable truths on the front page and lets citizens decide for themselves how they feel about it. That's how journalism is supposed to work. If Canada had a truly independent media, this story would have run like this. The following, basically. Here you go. Canada's economy shrinks again. Headline, top of the page. Fourth time in 5 months. Headline, top of the page. Liberal policies blamed for slowing growth. Headline, the top of the page. That would be the honesty. That's honest. That's factual. That would be journalism. But instead, instead, what we got was economy contracts slightly, but growth expected next month. Wait a minute. How do you know that? And first of all, you want to mention that it's been 5 months out of 6 that it's contracted? I mean, that's not news. That's a press release. It's a twisted press release. It's talking points. And that's why you put it on page 4, because you damn well know it. When a country's media stops reporting truthfully, the nation starts suffocating as a country. When the watchdog becomes the lapdog, corruption thrives and spirals out of control. We've reached a point in Canada where the absence of bad news is itself a red flag. If you have to dig through pages of government-funded media to find out your country's true economic numbers and that your economy is shrinking, democracy has already failed you. So to every Canadian watching this episode right now, don't rely on the headlines to tell you the truth. If you're liberal, I ask, just don't rely on the headlines. Open your mind. Dig deeper, ask harder questions, because truly the people in charge are banking on you to just read the headline and move on with your day. Both the politicians and the journalists they bankroll are counting on your ignorance. And frankly, as long as we keep letting them bury the bad news, and I mean they present bad news about Donald Trump, but as long as they bury the bad news of our reality and in our economy, it's going to keep shrinking. And the only other thing that's going to keep shrinking is Canada's future. Thanks for watching Bakes on Things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the conversation down below. What would you do about this media bias that we continue to see and that people are burying the real headlines about our economy? It's disgusting. I want to hear your comments about it below. And don't forget, we will be back tomorrow morning on Thursday morning now. We're getting to the end of the week. First sip. Boy, oh boy, I can't believe it. First sip Thursday morning. Let's see you then. Have a great evening.